In the world of X-Men, Wolverine is widely known for being the best at what he does, even though what he does isn't very nice, like tearing enemies to shreds. But that is exactly the kind of guy you need sometimes, especially when the mission consists of a multiverse-hopping monster made out of pure psionic energy. If you haven't guessed already, we are talking about the recently launched Weapon X-Men comics by Christos Gage and Sonar, which sees the famous Berserker on a pretty strange mission. The adventure spans different corners of the multiverse, and different versions of Logan come together to stop the malicious onslaught. The storyline spins out directly from Gage's work on the original X-Men #1 and is set to occur throughout 4 issues. But before we descend into a flurry of violence and adamantium claws, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It might just be a small click for you, but it means an awful lot to us. With that out of the way, let's dive right in. Different Earths, different Wolverines. The first issue of this limited series begins with a pretty haunting visual. In the alternate age apocalypse timeline on Earth 295, Weapon X, or Wolverine, stands atop a pile of corpses. This Wolverine is a ruthless, jaded warrior who lived through Apocalypse's takeover of his planet. In the endless fighting, he lost every single thing he ever loved, and yeah, even his left hand. Suddenly, the skies come undone in a dazzling burst of energy, and we find Jean Grey, the Phoenix, leading a ragtag crew of Wolverines to Earth 295. Among Jean's companions are a zombified version of Wolvie from Earth 2149, an overweight balding one from Earth 9997, Old Man Logan, and early 20th century Jane Howlett from Earth 1281. All of them seem to be haunted by their own pasts. The Wolverine from the Earth X is in denial of his weight, while Old Man Logan is completely gun-shy. It makes sense, to be honest. After all, the old guy wiped away the entirety of the X-Men in his own reality. And yeah, zombie Logan looks like human flesh far too much. Phoenix helps him satiate his hunger using psionic energy, but the man just likes flesh more than pure energy. As expected from a mob of Wolverines, the group quickly begins arguing and is almost on the verge of punching each other in the face when their guide Jean intervenes. She tells the various versions of Logan that they have been collected for a particular reason: to stop Onslaught. The monster who has been one of the X-Men's most fearsome enemies through the years was born on another Earth where things went wrong in all the worst ways. In that reality, Professor X perished in a battle with Magneto. Enraged by the death of her mentor, Universe's Jean shut down Magneto's mind completely. In the process, a part of Magneto's psyche, the darkest, most terrifying parts of his identity, attached themselves to Jean. As a result, Jean herself was corrupted as the entity brought out the worst parts of the telepath's personality to the forefront. The resulting anomaly called itself Onslaught and would have easily taken over the world without the X-Men. In that unfortunate timeline, the X-Men were still young, and the ideals instilled in them by Professor X were still intact. This allowed them to defeat Onslaught by blowing up their entire planet. But despite their best efforts, a weakened Onslaught managed to sneak off into the depths of the cosmos. This led Jean to the different Wolverines scattered across the multiverse. After all, he is the only one she could trust to fight till the last breath to save the multiverse from a terrifying fate. Jean uses his psionic powers to project an image of Jean and Magneto from an alternate world. The duo looks much older, and we learn that human-mutant conflict has been thoroughly squashed in this universe. The entire populace lives in the peace thanks to the efforts of Jean and Magneto, who lead the mutant-human nation. Traces of Onslaught's energy tell the Phoenix that Onslaught hides in this seemingly utopian reality. It is interesting to note that for all her power, Jean refuses to engage with Onslaught directly. The reason for this is simple. Since Jean houses the tremendous cosmic energy of the Phoenix inside herself, she can't risk it being absorbed in a direct confrontation with Onslaught. Thus, the squad of Wolverine is now standing before her. With a slight gesture, she sends them all to Earth 93068. Earth 93068 is the dream of Charles Xavier realized in the truest form. Almost all conflict on the planet has been resolved owing to an imminent invasion by an alien species called Badoon. The Badoon led the entire population of this world to stand together to defend it. Though there were massive sacrifices like Xavier and Nick Fury, somehow our heroes succeeded in creating an ideal reality. Just as the Wolverines are becoming accustomed to their new surroundings, a team of superheroes consisting of Jean Grey, Magneto, Miles Morales, Transonic, and Captain Marvel pounces upon them. The heroes believe that the Logans are some sort of villainous clones, and a short battle ensues, but Weapon X can set up a telepathic link with Jean in this world, convincing her of Onslaught's existence. The squad of Logan heads to the heroes' headquarters in Manhattan, and it's funny to know that they call themselves the X4. So much for creativity. Jean assures her guests that she will scan every brain on her planet to look for Onslaught and disappears behind a metal door. To pass her time, Jane Howlett goes off to a bar because she's a Wolverine. Meanwhile, the older Logans rest their weary bodies. Soon, Jean comes out with the good news that Onslaught isn't on her planet. After a brief conversation with the Phoenix, who recruited the wolves, our heroes move on to a party. Zombie Wolverine almost hunts down a poor waiter, but Old Man Logan offers him a piece of his own shin to calm down. In front of a painting, Jean Grey and Weapon X lament about how they always seem to lose love. Not willing to give up this one chance, they soon embrace each other in a kiss. But not everything is as perfect as it seems. While getting wasted in Toad's Hole, a local bar, Jane discovers the true location of Onslaught. Turns out, the villain is everywhere. Like, he has infested the mind of everyone on the planet, including some of the weaker mutants. Jane hurries off to the X4 tower to alert them of the problem, while a mind-controlled horde descends upon her, each member speaking in Onslaught's singular voice. Jane reaches her comrades, but that's no respite either, as many of the superheroes like Colossus, Jubilee, and Iceman have fallen privy to Onslaught's control. The battle rages inside the superhero tower, and the Wolverines are almost overwhelmed. Fortunately, at the moment when everything seems lost, the Phoenix appears. We learn from Spidey, one of the few unaffected heroes, that in this reality, they have a magical evacuation strategy that was put in place after the Badoon attacks to carry the victims off the world. With Jean's tremendous power, the heroes can rescue every unaffected person in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the Wolverines keep the different Onslaught-possessed heroes engaged. Unfortunately, Jubilee dies at the hands of Old Man Logan, which leaves the already traumatized hero even more shattered. Despite their valiant efforts, Onslaught's forces seem far too powerful. Just then, Zombie Wolverine rushes into the complex, leading a small army of zombies that began devouring Onslaught's henchmen. Taking advantage of this, the Phoenix transports her squad back to safety, but not before destroying the already evacuated Earth 93068. The events shake the entire team, but Jean wants them to resume their mission. When asked why she's in such a hurry, the all-powerful Phoenix answers, "The Earth Onslaught took refuge on Now Is My Homeworld." With this cliffhanger, the first issue of Weapon X-Men ends. The second issue starts with a small flashback from the overweight Wolverine who belongs to Earth 9997 or Earth X. This version of Logan was one of the few in the multiverse who ended up with Jean Grey. But this came at a cost. Jean lost all her powers and soon underwent a crippling depression after being reduced to a normal human. To keep the love of his life company, Wolverine contacted Mile Warren, a genetics specialist who injected Logan with a formula that greatly slowed down his regeneration capabilities. Due to this, Wolverine began gaining weight and despised all his efforts. Jean eventually left him. So yeah, things are pretty bad for all versions of Logan, even when he is not fighting aliens or Sentinels. Once the Wolverines have recuperated, Jean takes them off to the Avengers Mansion on Earth 80777, where we find the current Captain America, Daniel Cage, looking for Onslaught. She acknowledges that the monster is incredibly well hidden, which leads the Phoenix to find the source personalities to which he would be drawn. Since the Phoenix was off the planet and Magneto was already dead, the only remaining option is Jean's clone, Madeline Pryor. But this would first lead to a couple of awkward encounters for our heroes, since Madeline is married to Jean's ex, Scott. The two share a home and have been married for many years. We also meet the Wolverine from this universe, an older, more dignified version who has built a life for himself with Mariko. The two have a son and a daughter, Shiro and Elizabeth. This familial bliss takes a toll on the other Wolverines, most of whom haven't been as lucky as the Logans standing before them. We also met other team members such as Nate Gray, Warlock, and Magik. Still, the team manages to get past their differences and devise a plan to combine Magik, the Sorcerer Supreme, and the Phoenix's powers to trace Onslaught. They arrive on a planet still ruled by the dinosaurs and find Onslaught standing in plain view. Catching a psionic monster made with the worst parts of two of the world's strongest mutants is never that easy, and the team steps into a trap. Magik catches the worst of it and suffers from a major psychic trauma. that knocks her out. We return to the Summers Pryor estate, where the family celebrates the union of Nate Gray and Amiko. But suddenly, Jean and her Weapon X-Men burst onto the scene and claim that Onslaught's been hiding inside Pryor. This obviously stirs up trouble, and the situation goes from bad to worse when they realize that it is actually Nate Gruho who the Onslaught has possessed. He grabs hold of Jean and begins to siphon off the Phoenix Force while the rest of his family stares in utter disbelief. Amid the confusion, this universe's Wolverine fails to see Nate being consumed by Onslaught and kills Zombie Wolverine when he tries to free Jean. But out of nowhere, the obese Wolverine from Earth X finds his spirit and lunges forward, slicing Nate's arm off his body. The Onslaught retreats while the team scrambles to heal the fallen Nate. Warlock uses his ability to provide him with an arm made from the techno-organic virus. Strangely poetic, considering that Nate bears this arm in almost every universe where he is known as Cable. Phoenix and her team of Wolverine have driven away from 80777, but despite the traumatizing events, Jean's belief stands firm. She reassures this ragtag crew of Logan that sooner or later they will make hard decisions that will determine the fate of the universe. In another universe, Onslaught proclaims that he is finally done hiding and scheming. As he plants his feet on a new world, the monster promises to change it in the image of Jean and Magneto's worst fears. Since Magneto always envisioned a world ruled by mutants, Jean has always feared death. Thus, he readies himself to create a world where all mutants are immortal. With this ominous declaration, the second issue comes to a close. Marvelous Verdict. Weapon X-Men is a completely new take on a hero with whom we are highly familiar. It allows us to catch a glimpse of all the issues plaguing Wolverine and the characteristics that make him special. We are certain that as this multiversal adventure progresses, we will face even more profound revelations regarding our favorite Berserker. But for now, that's it. Please let us know what comic you want us to cover in the comments below. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more Marvelous videos. We will see you all in the next one.